You haven't even gotten to JP. You haven't even gotten to the part where this kid reaches his mother in their dreams at night and gives her music. She wakes up, she writes it down, she takes him to the studio, and they compose music.
Oh, wow.
And he tells her what's right, what's wrong, and she has to fix it. But it's coming from him through her. That's amazing to me.
Welcome to Creepalachia. I have been looking forward to this episode all month, and I am so excited to be joined by the Riser family, who you all may recognize. Tom is official friend of the show now, second appearance.
Yeah, I'm blessed to be invited back, and I'll come back and talk to you anytime, JD. I love it. So.
Shoot, yeah. And Lindsay Riser, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I've read so much about you.
Oh,
I've been following Facebook.
You probably shouldn't believe it all.
Right. Well, I'm excited, and we have Ricky
Riser,
Riser, who is here.
Ricky Riser.
Yeah.
Say hello.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15%
H-E-L-L-O. H-E.
That's perfect. That's
Hello.
perfect.
Oh, wow.
Hey, Ricky.
There you go.
All right. So we're going to talk. So Tom
Turn it down
introduced
some?
me
Thanks, sir.
to a thing called the Telepathy tapes. And I've been diving in. I haven't fully finished it yet, but I've got enough to know kind of an overview of it. But that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, but not really just that. There's so much more. So I guess where do you want to start, Tom? I want to know, like, Lindsay, when you found out you were pregnant, like, when was this? What happened?
It was probably about March 2006. I knew I was pregnant. I was only like 2 weeks. I knew. And I wasn't feeling too well at work. And I went and bought a pregnancy test after working at Texas Steakhouse in Princeton on a Saturday night. And you get 2 in a pack.
Mhm.
So I did one that night, not telling anybody, just to see. And it was positive. And then the next morning I did another one and it was positive. And then at the time we had some people staying at our house who their friend was gotten hurt in another state. Remember?
No, I don't remember any of this.
Kathy and I think Chris was there.
Oh,
cool. Swing that mic to you just a little closer.
I don't want to be too loud.
Oh, no, you won't be too loud.
Okay.
That's perfect.
So we had some friends there, but it was a trying time in our life. We were young. We were in our last semester of college, and we were just trying to finish college. And he had just quit his job at 59, the news station, because it was his last semester, and he was trying to just finish it up. And he had to do a movie.
Sure.
So yeah, we found out I was pregnant when he did not have a job, and I was waiting tables at Texas Steakhouse on our last semester of college at Concord.
Perfect. Were you, I don't know if this is TMI. Were y'all married?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have been married for we've been together since 1999. November of 99, and married 2002, had Ricky in 2006. So we went without a child for like 8 years.
Very nice. How'd you propose, Tom?
well, it was kind of Lindsay's idea
Nice.
a little
Always
bit.
my idea.
I like it.
And we had talked about getting married, and we were like, well, let's just finish college, right? And
There was a reason why we needed to get married before, because I was still on my parents' income. My father was a coal miner, and I could get grants instead of taking out loans if I was independent and got married.
Right.
So I kind of talked him into doing it a little early.
Well,
But we were in Florida, and he was with his dad, and his mom had passed away a few years before that. It was the first year that we were together. His mom had passed away.
Oh,
And he told his dad he wanted to marry me, and he gave him are their rings.
Mm-hmm.
So I still have his mom's ring. I bought my own at our 20th anniversary, but with my chemo treatments and all that, it irritated my skin. So I'm back to my good old faithful.
Sure. Yeah. And we'll get into that too. I have so many questions.
There's a lot.
And I formally proposed like on the beach in Daytona.
We were in Florida on the way back in Daytona. He proposed on the beach at night. So, you know, it was all romantic and whatnot.
Oh,
I tried to make it romantic.
Oh, you know,
she didn't know that I had the rings. And I actually really messed up and I regret it to this day because we were in Florida and I didn't get a chance to ask her father for her hand, right? Which is custom.
kind of a thing.
Right.
And the goat and you got to get them goat and something else.
Yeah, right.
I can't remember.
Something. And, some kind of, what's the name of it? It's left me. Anyway, I had forgotten. And so then it happened. And then I was like, oh no, I forgot. And and when we told him, he said, was there a problem asking me?
Right.
And he's a very intimidating man, right?
Yeah.
He ran a miner underground for 45 years. He's very rough, kind of old school kind of guy, So, and then her mom said, "Oh, hush, Gable. They're fine. He didn't have to ask you." And so she came to my rescue, And I should have, that's what I should have done. And I was raised right. I knew that was the way to do it.
Right.
So, but an interesting fact, speaking of telepathy, right? We've probably been dating about 2 weeks, right? And I heard Lindsay say, "I love you." And I said, "I love you too."
And I said, "What? What'd you say? What'd you say?" And he said, "I told you I loved you too." I said, "I didn't say that." He said, "Yes, you did." And I was like, I said it in my mind, but I didn't say it out loud. I wasn't going to.
Sure.
We'd only been together 2 weeks. I wasn't going to say that. But yeah, he just come back with it and freaked me out for a while.
So speaking of telepathy, that's how
how our relationship started.
Wow, that's fun.
Yeah.
How cool. Well, I've been following you all for a long time. Me and Tom kind of really met. I mean, we met in real life, but kind of talked more via text for a long time until we got to have the podcast. I think that's the first time we've talked over 10 minutes at any sitting, and it was an awesome 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
But so tell me about Ricky as a kid. Like how did you start figuring out? And I guess if you want to give is there an official diagnosis or okay?
So there was a process. Can I start with his birth?
Yeah, for sure.
Because he was born in Princeton. It was the new women and children's, it was a new labor facility there in Princeton in 2006. It was really good. The nurse was wonderful. I went to the same doctor that my friend had went to. I didn't know who to go to. So I just went to whoever she went to. My labor, they induced me at midnight. And I laid there until 8 a.m. They broke my water and I was in pain from 8 until 12. And then they made me push from 12 until 2:09 when he was born. And he was in the birth canal so long that he had a bruise on the top of his head. And that's how I knew he was my kid, because he had a bruise on the top of his head when I went to go see him.
Right.
And so I've always wondered about that.
Sure.
I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, it's good to know.
So then when he was a baby, he was our first kid, so we didn't know what was normal, in air quotes, normal. Yeah. When he was teething, and we've always heard babies are colic. They cry, which he didn't cry a whole lot. But when he was teething age, a few months, 5-6 months, we would have to put him in the stroller And we lived in a single wide trailer, and we run from one end of that single wide trailer to the other in the winter because it was winter time. And that was the only thing that would calm him down.
Right.
The movement,
Sure.
swings, car rides. Still, he rocks. It's
Comforting.
It's comforting. It's the only now. Ever since he was a baby, as soon as he gets in the car, he goes to sleep. It's always been comforting to him. And there have been times when he's up for 2 days, he won't sleep. But as soon as he gets in the car, man, go right out.
Is he a good traveler?
Oh, he loves to
travel. He would travel. He would stay at a different hotel and swim in a different hotel's pool and eat at a different Cheddar's or Texas Steakhouse, Texas Roadhouse every day.
Mm-hmm.
If we were billionaires, that's probably what we would be doing.
That sounds pretty good to me.
Because that's all he cares about. It's all he wants.
Sure.
So we moved to Florida, I guess, when he was about 2. Right?
Yeah.
And at
Y'all
about
lived in Florida? I didn't realize that.
yeah,
We moved to Florida when he was about 18 months, and that's when everybody says they regress.
Mm.
And so we just assumed we all got sick, of course. We assumed 1, he got sick. 2, it was the move. It was a big thing.
Big change.
So maybe, it was just going to take some time. But he stopped eating the things that he would eat. He used to eat like scrambled eggs. He would say, Mama, Dada. My dad got him to say Pawpaw's boy and stuff like that. He stopped saying it. He stopped looking at us. He would never respond when you called his name. It just seemed to be looking somewhere else.
Right.
Somewhere else.
So he said it starting out and then just
Yeah.
stopped
Yeah.
eventually saying, okay.
When he was a baby, in a high chair, he's eating scrambled eggs, eating different things that we're eating and trying to show him. But about 18 months, he stopped.
Mm.
He stopped saying it, stopped eating things. Of course, like I said, it was the same time we went to Florida. So we thought the big move, maybe that did it, but it just kept on.
And my granny told me, you need to get that boy into preschool.
Because he was an
Right,
only child.
because
So
he's-
maybe
he's
need
not,
socialization.
Yeah, maybe some socialization and to get him talking. And so we put him into preschool down there in Moorhaven, and it went from there. And we finally got a referral to the Dan Marino Center in Miami.
Well, we
which-
did birth to 3. They
We did
referred
birth
us
to
to birth to
3,
3.
right.
Birth to 3 sent us to the Dan Marino Center. The Dan Marino Center said, well, you can't, at that time, I don't know now, this was 18 years ago or however long. We had to wait till he was 3 to get a formal diagnosis. So at that time, they said, right now, we'll just say it's a developmental delay because he could just start to talk at any time. It happens. And then after 3, that's when they gave us the formal diagnosis in Florida at Dan Marino Center.
And they started him on medications at 2.5. And we're like, we're pretty certain that this will be his diagnosis, but we can't formally do that yet. So he's been on, some sort of medication, and some of it he still takes today that they prescribed then.
Just for like ADHD
Sure.
and just focus
Mm-hmm.
and anxiety. That's
Right.
basically what he takes.
Sure. So what's the official diagnosis again?
Autism spectrum disorder.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So you all went through all this. What are you thinking early on? Are you staying positive? Are you kind of scared?
We went through.
it's a plethora of emotion, right? Because you don't know really what's to unfold in the future. And it's, you kind of, but it's all right. Right. It's all good. All right. So, it's you go through and then you get to the acceptance, and then you kind of move on, and then you just try to do what you can when you can. Right. And a friend of mine that I worked with, and I worked for the Seminole Tribe of Florida down there. And a friend of mine that worked there as well. He had heard that, some kids with autism, right, could talk with certain apps on an iPad. So he gifted him an iPad.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The first generation iPad
Yeah.
was given to Ricky for Christmas.
Yeah.
How old?
4?
Probably 3 or 4.
Hey, have a seat, bud.
What are you doing? What you doing?
He's like, I got to stretch my legs.
All right.
New pussycat.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
What's new pussycat?
Whoa, whoa.
That's a cool necklace.
Whoa.
That's his chewy.
A chewy.
We call it a chewy.
He used to
I love it.
he used to chew on them a lot. He did have the
What are you doing? Where are you going?
yeah, you never know what's going to happen here.
Oh, so I can see it. Yeah, that's cool.
He's
I love that
interested.
necklace.
And
you could you could touch this and look at you.
You can. You're tall.
He's very
yeah, he's a big guy.
I see you he likes swimming.
Yeah, he loves swimming.
Yeah.
Loves the water.
Yeah, down there. I
Pool.
saw
He
you at
just
the
said
pool
pool.
Hey.
this summer.
Have a seat, bud.
He
Yeah.
loves his
I've seen you,
pool.
man.
That's what he's been saying to us. The last hotel we stayed at was in Virginia to see his dad for Christmas.
Right.
What was it? Was he saying? Courtyard. It's a courtyard.
Uh-huh.
And so now he keeps saying courtyard, pool, courtyard, pool.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So he yeah.
What baseball team is that?
That's
is that
the-
That's the
baseball?
Miners.
That's the
Miners, yes.
yeah. That's
Beckley
the
Miners.
Miners,
Are they still playing?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We were doing that used to be my hat, and we were doing some product photos for the Miners through Cucumber and Company.
Oh, cool.
And I
He
just
bought the
bought that hat.
I keep
Yeah.
thinking it's Marshall
Oh,
every
yeah,
time
yeah,
I
yeah.
see it
That's what I was thinking too. Is it
because it's green and the M. And
Yep.
so I think it's Marshall. And then I'm like, no, that's not Marshall.
But he's decided he wants long hair again. So
Right.
we got to tame
He grew
the
his hair out. It took there for a while, like 2 or 3 years during COVID, he would not let us cut his hair.
Oh, really?
And it got that way down to past his shoulders.
I remember that. Yeah. Yeah. It looks good.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough for us to take care of, right? Because he takes a lot of care, right?
Mhm.
It's a 24/7.
It's a 24/7.
You can't leave him alone.
The motor skills aren't really there for him to do a lot of those things, and so we have to help him, and he's getting better, right? A little bit all the time.
He's learning life skills at school really good. I guess I'm just not good at teaching it to him. I don't know.
Oh,
He's learning it.
I'm sure you're great.
But it's, when you do it every day, a lot of time he needs change. When you
Okay.
do it every day, it's a lot of times you're like, let me just do it just so we can get going,
Sure.
and you don't have time to be like, okay, I'll sit down, put your clothes on,
Okay.
this and that. So
do
a
you
lot
want to
of
do you want to pause here?
Yeah, we can pause.
We can pause.
Yeah,
and-
yeah.
and change.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
Pause here.
problem.
Cool.
So, you just tell me about the app. What's the app called?
It's called Proloquo to Go, and it's based on PEX, which is a picture-based thing where you have icons of different things, like the bathroom or foods that he likes and things, right? And you can set it up and change the way it's laid out and add or subtract things according to what your needs are.
Right.
So, he's been using that since he was about 4. He has slowly decided that he doesn't like that anymore. And I think it's
It's where I spilled this stuff.
oh, okay. All right, good.
Oh, I'll get it. Yeah, it's no
Come on
problem.
around. Don't touch, bud. Come on around. Can you get around it? I know it's close quarters.
Yeah, a little tight in here.
He's a big guy.
Watch out.
All right.
Watch out.
Here we go. Have a seat here, buddy. Have a seat here, buddy. We're going to talk for a little while. All right. So
Swing
just-
that camera around, Tom. When you,
Right.
yeah, just point it centered.
Yep.
Yeah, or you can just turn it. Yeah, it'll turn easy.
All right. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Tell me
About
when.
a little this way, other way. This way. This way. This way. A little more. A little more. A little more. Right there.
Okay.
Perfect. There we go.
All right.
All right. So
and I can show you
Yeah,
kind of what that looks like.
yeah, that'd be great.
We were talking about the app that he uses.
So it has like different foods on it, different things like
You can
that.
put
or-
almost anything on it. You just type in the word.
So that's the app. If you can see that,
Yep.
and and it'll load up.
Is this on camera?
It
There's-
is.
There's
Yeah.
different things there.
So you have folders, so you can see where some of them are looks like a folder. So that opens up to different things.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
So and then some are just buttons,
feelings,
and you can edit that to. You can take a photo. So let's say this is his cup that he always drinks his tea out of.
Right.
I can take a picture of this, and it
So
would
right
be
there, you
like,
can see
that's your tea.
the Pop Tarts
and
there.
you see I
Those are
took
the
a
Pop
picture-
Tarts that he likes.
I
The
took
brown
that
sugar
picture
cinnamon.
In 2009, that's an
Yeah.
old pic. That's from Florida.
And then
It's
when
so old.
you hit that,
Pop Tarts.
Oh, cool.
And you can
Right.
change the voice
Mhm.
to be whatever.
Oh, cool.
and there are
kinds
different
of
voices in there, and it's the closest thing that we could find to
Appalachian
an
accent.
Appalachian accent was a Texan. So we use
And
Of
they say,
course.
Texas
the deep
Roadhouse.
yeah, it says when you go to let's see where
We say Mama's house.
Oh wow.
yeah,
Mama's house.
Oh nice.
right. So
All right. So Prolo to go. We got to get some Appalachians up in here. I think I got the. Is this it?
For a little
Yep.
quote to go. Yeah.
yep, that's
Prolo
it.
quote to go.
And
There's all different kinds though.
Right.
There's free ones. There's
This one was rather expensive
we
to
paid
start out.
almost
It was
$250,
$289, and that was in 2009.
Wow. Really.
Yeah.
Now,
And
for
he
those of you
wouldn't
that are interested in that, wait until April. It's about half price.
Yeah. They
Because
always go on
April
sale
is-
in April.
April is Autism Awareness Month, and so they'll put this on sale for half price. Now, there is a version of this that is available now for a monthly fee. I think it's like $10 a month,
Right.
but we have we've owned it since
He's looking for something chocolate.
Chocolate.
He's looking for his chocolate chip cookies. He doesn't have any.
You ate them on the way here, bub.
Yeah.
So now this also has a typing feature,
And that's what he always goes to.
and that's what he uses primarily.
Sure.
And that's
I
when
think
we
we
figured
need-
out that he could spell.
Well,
How old was he when he
so
started?
let me, can I
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
you
yeah,
a
go
story?
ahead.
Go ahead.
So back in, 2020, his regular teacher quit and he had to get a new sub or whatever. And so this woman, she worked at the Board of Education, but she's retired. So she's just subbing. But she worked with the special needs department. And he's looking for something, honey. And I had noticed that every time we would go somewhere, he would see a sign like, a logo on a sign, Ollie's or whatever. And he's teaching himself how to spell it. And he's spelling it in like YouTube or Safari or Google Chrome.
Oh wow.
And he's searching it. And
Mhm.
so there's different things that he's searching, and then he's just learning. He's looking and he's like Googling it. And
Sure.
then he's looking through images and videos, and then he watches videos about it. And then, and that's how I think sometimes we get on to, he loves Ollie's and certain establishments because he likes their logo.
Yeah. When he started doing that, were you like hyped? Like, what were you thinking
Well,
of?
I was like, he's teaching himself how to spell.
Yeah.
So he's teaching himself how to spell. And so that's when Miss Snuffer, when we got the teacher, I said, he's teaching himself how to spell. I said, and
And he's-
all they're doing is giving him a pencil and telling him to write his name every day. That's all he's done ever since he was.
Yeah, he was
What? He
tracing
was in
his
junior
name.
high.
He was tracing his name for maybe 3 or 4 years straight.
Longer than that. He was in junior high.
Yeah.
this was 2020, and I was like, he's teaching himself how to spell
And he's like spelling out
sentences.
full names of videos
Yeah.
on YouTube. And we figured out probably 2010 or so, it had been a couple of years, we figured out that he was communicating through YouTube.
Through videos.
Sure.
You hear that?
Yeah.
Also, bubbles. Ah.
Okay, that's
SpongeBob betrayed us in
Polish. I think it's
Maybe.
Polish.
some language.
All right, can you turn that
So
down
that's
a
when
little
he's
bit, bud?
aggravated. He's a little aggravated right
Turn it
now.
down a little
Sure.
I know.
Thank you. We're
So
gonna
he
hang out here for a little while, okay?
He has
He does-
different videos for different emotions.
Yeah. So there's
Yes.
a Geico commercial where he has a flat tire and he goes, "Help! Someone help me! I have a flat tire." That means he needs help. He either needs change. He's
yeah.
hungry. He's thirsty. He needs help.
Wow.
And so we know when he plays that, he needs help.
He
Yeah.
needs something.
Yeah.
Right. And if he's happy, there are videos for that.
There's videos to help him go to sleep, and it helps me go to sleep as well.
Sure.
So he plays like these, nice soft music. He loves music. He is a music
Critic.
critic. If you have the wrong song on, he will make you turn it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there's certain, I think, and in the telepathy tapes, the one thing that really stuck with me was the tuning forks. And I don't know if you got to that part, but the kid that was like, "This sound is my soul.
Oh yeah. No, I haven't
This
got
sound is not good. This sound is evil." But he would take that fork and he'd be like, "This sound is my soul." And I think it would help him.
Be aware in his own body.
Yeah.
Because these kids, they don't feel as at home in their bodies as we do. And I think that's part of the reason why the motor skills are not there, because even in the telepathy tapes, some of the kids described not being able to feel their hands and things like that.
That's why they do this. It kind of like brings them back to their body
Sure.
so they can feel their body. That's why they like the compression, because you can feel yourself in your body. They say that they're like half on the other side, or whatever you want to call it, half in the other realm, and then half in Earth, on Earth,
space. Right?
Oh, wow.
And so they're not fully here.
Sure.
And so that's why they can't completely communicate or even move freely.
Yeah. But even him having certain things that he goes to, because he knows what, so he can understand what people are saying, and he knows what's going on. And
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely. And we figured that out a long time ago.
And we tried to tell people forever. I said, he knows what you're saying.
Don't talk down to him.
Don't
Right.
talk like he's not here. Don't talk down to him. Don't talk like he's a baby. Like, when he was getting to be a teenager and people still talking to him like he's a baby. I'm like, he's not a baby. He's 12. He's a preteen.
Yeah. He's 19 now?
He's 18.
18.
Yeah.
He just turned an adult, and we got guardianship and conservatorship because he'll never be able to take care of himself.
Right.
So we had to get that because his school was telling us that once he turned 18, he could make his own decisions.
On
I
his
said,
education.
I said, so he's just not going to go to school, right?
Right.
But we had to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even, I've just met Ricky officially for 40 minutes. I mean, you can tell like he knows what's going on, knows what people are saying.
Absolutely.
It's just, is that kind of, this type of autism, is it mainly just the way to express yourself or is it motor skills too, or kind of what all is involved?
Well, there are some children that have great motor skills and they can climb and do all kinds of stuff. And like you hear people say all the time, you've met one autistic child, you've only met one autistic child, because they're all different.
Yeah, it's a spectrum.
It's
that's
a
why
spectrum, and
that's
they're
why
all
it's called a
different.
spectrum.
Sure.
So
All of them are different, right?
So all we can speak on is what we experience with Rick, because what we experience, someone else will experience something completely different.
Sure.
But for him, I guess, it's mostly the communication is the biggest hindrance. But then there's also the fine motor skills, like with using your fingers.
Grasping.
Yeah, grasping,
things like
picking up, writing,
he doesn't like to write at all.
Right.
He does not
Or
like
hold
to
a
write at
pencil
all,
or
hold a
pen.
pencil. And so when we got through to his teacher that, he is typing these things out, she started giving him spelling words. And he skipped over grades.
She was trying to find
Wow.
words that he didn't know.
Wow.
That he could spell them out in the air. And you spell a word to him and he'll say it. He'll speak it. That's how he learns how to speak. And since he was doing that and spelling it, he's learning how to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's helping him to speak.
Wow.
And so he's speaking more.
That's great. What kind of words is there go-to words, or does he shock you sometimes of like, whoa, that's new?
Yeah. Well, this whole courtyard thing is new. It used to be Holiday Inn Express, but since we stayed at the courtyard last time, courtyard's new. But
mostly at this point, it's places that he wants to go or things that he needs. And he's not fully what they call open, right? Meaning he doesn't type out full sentences yet. And I'm hopeful that we can get to that point, because he will type out, like he typed out Texas Roadhouse to where he wanted to go to eat today.
Right.
But if you ask him, hey, where do you want to go eat? He's not going to tell you right now. It's going to be in about 30 minutes and then he'll answer you.
Right.
So it takes patience.
Sure.
Which is something I'm still trying to learn.
What would be the like early on? Do you remember what the most like frustrating, is that the word? Like, did you ever get frustrated with certain things, or
no? Frustration's the name of the game.
I'm frustrated right now. I'm frustrated every day.
It's okay, buddy.
But it's a human,
and we
not try to tell myself that.
Sure.
Hey. I don't want to scream.
We do this at home. He likes to holler hey, and then I'll holler hey back, right? And that's us having a conversation.
Sure.
But yeah, frustration and mostly it's his frustration is the biggest thing. It's because
he's frustrated, and that's the one thing we had to learn, was that he's not giving us a hard time. He's having a hard time. And I remember when we were in Florida and he was probably like 3 or 4 years old, his dad lived right next to the Circle K. So I would go stop at the Circle K and like get gas or whatever before we go. And you could see his dad's house. So his pawpaw's house was right there at Circle K. This kid fell and dropped himself down on the ground screaming. I have a scar right here from where he cut me or scratched me. Because he wanted to go to us. He didn't understand why we were stopping here when Papa was like right there.
Right.
And we learned, it took a lot of those times for us to learn, we have to tell him what's going on. He doesn't know what's going on.
Sure.
So we have to say, okay, we're going to go to Walmart. We're going to go and we got to go to the bank and we got to do this. And then we'll go get gas and then we'll go to Papa's. We go first and then. First we do this and then we do that.
And it takes more than one time, right? We have to continually kind of explain, hey, this is what we're going to do. We had to tell him that we were coming to do a podcast today days in advance. And then I talked to him, several times before we got here. And it's just a thing, that we've got to do. And
It's something you learn the hard way.
Sure.
It's,
You know? But
I think it's uncertainty. He wants to make sure that this is what's going on.
well, just like anybody else, they
Right.
want to know what's happening.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
they want to
just
know what's happening.
being careful,
Right.
kind of. And you can tell Ricky's got a sense of humor, I'm guessing.
Very much
Oh,
so.
he has
He will
like a
roast you.
rapier wit, right? He will roast you, and he roasts us constantly. And we were messing around with his grandpa, and he does this thing called scripting, right? Where he'll take some lines from a movie,
Mhm.
and then he'll use that in conversation. Okay, so there's
Which
a
we
part.
do all the time.
How fun.
There's a part in Monsters University where the guy hollers out. He says, "Take it easy on Grandpa."
Right.
Right. And so he said that, take it easy on
Dad
Grandpa.
was doing something was going on. My dad's been sick. He has
Oh.
black lung,
Oh,
and
sorry.
that's West Virginia coal mines, right?
Right.
But there was something was going on with Dad, and Ricky hollered out, "Take it easy on Grandpa." It's like, oh, all right, man. Okay.
Good timing.
Yeah, it's perfect,
Yeah.
Um,
And
but-
sometimes he'll say those things, and then other times he'll take a bit from a show and play it out on YouTube.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
He'll
so his way of communicating is very versatile. He can speak a word, but he can type. He can play a video. He can play a song. He can give you whatever emotion and whatever he's feeling in other ways.
and he knows to the frame, to the second.
Oh, he can
Just
right there, right to it, just like that.
Yeah.
That's
So he has a
great.
catalog of videos in his head of things that he can use. And he'll do that immediately.
So here's one. This was funny because I was out in the garden. It's like last year, and I was trying to pull some weeds, and it wouldn't come up. And I was like, "Oh, Rick, it won't come up," and I kept trying to pull it, and it finally come up. And like at that second, he played this thing that went da da da. Like, you did it, Mom. And I was like, "Yeah, we did it." And so he's kind of like my what do you call it?
It's like your commentator.
Yeah,
Right.
You know?
yeah.
Did you figure out early, like, is your system constantly evolving, or did you figure out like a schedule that worked for everybody, or did you kind of adjust to what?
Our schedule's never been proper. Just because our jobs have always been different.
Sure.
When me and him both worked in Beckley, and we lived right in Pineville, and he went to school in Pineville. We were right there. We take him to school, But it was really long days because my parents would pick him up. And now we live right next to my parents because they're elderly. And so I'm taking care of them. I'm taking care of him. We're the sandwich generation. Taking care of the special needs son and taking care of my father that has black lung, and my mother who's trying to take care of my father, but she has her own issues. So now I'm just there to take care of whoever and whatever. And if school were in and he had a schedule and a routine, life is easy.
Mm-hmm.
But
Easier.
it's easier, not easy, but it's easier. But without us being in school so much, it's
Chaos.
it is chaos. It's sheer chaos.
Sure.
The good thing now is that Tom works with the school.
Mhm.
So when he's off, he's off. And so now we're together for the most part. So it kind of works out a little bit better
Yeah, that's good.
than when he was younger.
Right. So, as far as, community support, are there any frustrating parts about the community or any positive parts on how you all were surprised in certain situations, or does anything come to mind on how West Virginia kind of accommodates to autistic children?
I would say on a local personal level, people are wonderful. The kids these days, like his generation, are more accepting than maybe our generation was of kids that were different. I think there's more now than there was when we were growing up. I think it has to do with a lot of, stuff that we've been eating and stuff like that. But that's a whole other podcast.
Sure.
What was the question?
Well,
I'm sorry, my mind wandered.
You're fine. You're fine. I'm just curious, like how the community responds.
Well, the kids are great, but I don't think as a larger scale that they're put into society as good as they should, integrated as well.
And that's everywhere. It's not just
West Virginia. As a whole, the United States, our society, our culture is starting to be more acceptable to people that are different, but then again, they're not.
Sure.
So I worry about this kind of thing getting out, and they mentioned it in that podcast. The people want to do things for evil, and I don't want people to look at my child and be like, oh, we're going to take him, we're going to use him for evil. That is like the biggest worry for me. But
and we moved here because, in part, we knew the community, and the community there in Wyoming County. We both grew up there. At least I spent from 13 to 18 there and graduated high school in Pineville. And I spent time other than that there, of course. And so we knew people in the community and the school system. And we knew that we could advocate and reach these people that we knew.
Yeah.
And it would be a welcoming community, a welcoming society, and that we could, we could work with that, and not against anyone in Florida, right? They were great too.
They were great. And we had a teacher that was wonderful.
Yeah.
I'd take her with me if I could have.
Yeah.
Right.
And, and we kind of learned things in Florida that they were doing that the folks in Wyoming County weren't doing. And we were like, listen, this is the way we ought to do it. Where in an IEP, you have the occupational therapist and the speech therapist and
anybody that works with the child needs to be in that IEP meeting.
Right. And IEP is individualized education plan. Right. And so they go over, the goals for the next year and what guidelines they kind of need to abide by to make sure that he's comfortable and he's learning and that kind of thing. Right. So, and, we had family and friends in Pineville that we knew and trusted, and there was support there. That's kind of
we had more support here in West Virginia. We only had a couple people in Florida.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So in school, because you hear special education. I know, like when I went to school, it didn't seem to be too tailored. It was just kind of
putting them in a room and just leaving them there.
Exactly. Is it a little different than that now, or is there still room for improvement?
Things have changed. I mean, when we were going to school, since then they've put the No Child Left Behind and stuff like that. So every kid has an IEP, and they go over their individual goals, strengths, weaknesses, what they've accomplished this year, what they haven't, what they should accomplish next year, what the parents or the child wants to work on next year. It's a way of getting the parents involved in the education too, and making sure that the educators are doing their job. And when we come, because I went to Florida and I remember being in an IEP, and everybody that was ever around Rick that whole year was there. And I walked in and they were like, here, sign this. I'm like, what is it? They're like, it's his IEP. I said, well, where's our meeting? And they're like, this is our meeting. I said, no, ma'am, it's not. We need everybody.
Yeah, this is when we came back to Wyoming.
When I came back to Wyoming County.
This was years ago, right? They've changed their ways, right? And
I was like, we don't do this this way.
Well, do you all think you helped educate and bring other protocols, or has there been a growing need as far as the community goes because more and more kids are getting diagnosed?
So when Ricky was supposed to go from elementary school to the junior high. We lived on Kentucky side in Pineville, which is you could throw a rock to the school. And they said, we don't have a room for him at the junior high. He's going to have to go to Baileysville. I said, I can walk him to school here. I'm not traveling down the Guyandotte to take him to a school. I'm not doing it. And I fought them for years, probably 2 or 3 years, and they finally put a room in the junior high for him.
Oh, good for you.
But I don't even know if they're using it, because when we left there, we had to leave the junior high because the Miss Snuffer had to leave. A new teacher came in and
That's
things happened. That's a whole other story.
Yeah,
Sure.
I don't even know if they're using it now, but that bothered me when they were like, oh, you could just take them to Baileysville. I'm like, why don't you just take your kid to the other side of the county?
Sure. Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that'd be frustrating.
It is
Yeah.
when they're like, oh, well, we only have to have the school, a room in one school per county. And I said, well, why did you put it on one end of the county? What about the kids that are on this end of the county? So I refused. And
we kept him in.
I kept him in the elementary school. I
Yeah.
said, I'm not sending him to Baileysville. He's going to go to elementary school until you get a room.
But they did work with us, and they remedied
did.
that, right?
Well, good for y'all.
They
yeah.
did. But, anytime you have to be the squeaky wheel.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
You have to.
You have to
You
advocate.
have to advocate. And that's not just for anybody with a special needs kid. That's for anybody that's going to a doctor. That's anybody that's going to get a surgery. That's anybody that has any child going anywhere. You need to advocate for them. If your child says that they're being bullied in school, go to the school. Don't take your kid's word for it. Go down there, talk to the, I don't know. I went to the school board and was like, I need to talk to them about this. And they're like, oh, well, she's on the phone. I said, well, I have time. So I'll sit right here until she's off the phone.
Sure.
And I just stared at the secretary until she let me in. So,
Yeah.
sometimes you got to do things like that.
Well, and I think a lot of time it's lack of education
It
just
is.
because people don't know.
They just don't know.
Yeah, because when I was, when I had diabetes when I was little, there wasn't a lot of kids that had it. So people just didn't really understand, and they'd be freaked out when I was playing sports and always have to have orange juice. And, everyone's scared that I'm
You
going
have
to
to check
fall
your
out.
sugar.
Yeah. And I know that's nothing compared to this, but I think it's education wise is a lot.
It is.
It's close. That's definitely a hurdle, and a hurdle is a hurdle, right? And
Yeah. Nobody wants to measure how high their hurdles are. Everybody has hurdles. And I had a friend that was diabetic too, and she would have to prick her finger.
Sure.
She didn't do it right though, because she would say, give me a number between this and this. And I didn't know what I was doing. And I'd be like, okay, this. And she's like just putting numbers in her book for her granny to look at.
Right.
And drinking her drinks like she wants. And I'm like, what? Don't do that.
I rebelled for a few years. I do not recommend.
Luckily, she's still alive too. So I think she got
yeah.
herself straightened out.
Yeah.
I was like,
good
you
for
need
her.
to take care of yourself.
Yeah, I got on my fingers. Well, that's all I can ask.
Yeah.
But the Wyoming County School Board, for the record, has been fantastic.
I'm not
Sure.
saying that
they're all the time. They're responsive, and they're willing to listen.
they are.
And
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that those are the hurdles that
Right.
we had to go through.
I mean, and it's fresh. I think everyone can relate that it would be frustrating because, this is your favorite person in the world.
Right.
And you're being told that they're not going to get the same treatment as everyone
No.
else. Yeah.
especially when it's a school that had, taking care of special needs people. So
Sure.
anyway, we're not going to go.
I think there's people going through this right now
Right.
There
in
are.
this state for sure.
Right.
There are.
So, but yeah, I mean, Wyoming County, as far as the school system goes, one of the better ones in the state for sure.
They really are.
But at the same time, it's important to relay these things so people will know.
Well,
You know
and
what I mean?
everybody can learn.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not that they did anything out of malice, right? Sometimes
Sometimes they just don't really understand or able to put themselves in someone else's shoes.
Yep, exactly.
And all they go by is the rule and like, oh, well, we only have to have one of these rooms in the whole county. And so we're going by the law. And as long as it's going by the law, then they're okay. But when you go down to the very low level of the people on the ground that has to actually take the kids to the school, it's not, what's the word I'm thinking? I can't think of words very good.
You're doing great.
Logistically stupid. It's just logistically stupid.
Sure. I get it.
You know, like it just doesn't make any sense.
I got it. Yeah. Well, you make sense to me.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm all over the place.
No. I mean, y'all are some of my favorite people. I'll just say,
Oh,
because
wow.
y'all have went through a lot, and I love your hair.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So as life continued, eventually it decided to throw you another hurdle.
Yeah.
Would you want to talk about that?
Which one?
Well, I don't. You can bring up whichever one you want.
Well, I mean, I got.
Are you talking about the cancer?
Yeah.
I'll talk about the cancer. So
Yeah.
in 2022, March of 2022, I was starting to get healthy. I was the healthiest I'd ever been in my life. I started like lifting weights and I could do a push-up. I was so proud of myself. And I went and got my regular mammogram and found out that I had stage 1 breast cancer.
And she had to advocate for that mammogram as well.
Because I was only 41 years old.
Right. The doctor was like, you don't need one yet. It was 45 was when
50 is when they
that was the new
require it,
guideline.
and then 40 is if you have a high risk, or 45 if you're high risk. But I was a high risk. So I didn't have my mother or nobody had it in my family. I didn't have any high risk factors to get it. So they were like, you don't have to. And I'm like, well, I'm going to, because in 2019, I had a scare before that.
And she, of course, is like, yeah, if you think you need one, go get one.
Yeah.
Right?
And so I did with my mom. My mom was clear. I had cancer. Had one surgery and then had to get another surgery to get get a re-excision to get the edges out, or whatever they call it, to make sure you get all the cancer out.
Sure.
And then after that surgery, the surgeon come up to me and said, well, the type of precancerous cells that you had, you are more likely to get it in your other breast. So you're probably going to have to get a mastectomy. After they had already told me it's stage 1, you're just not, you're just going to have a surgery and, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what? Okay. I've already had 2 surgeries. Now they want to do a mastectomy. So my brother lives in Memphis, and he was like, hey, you can come to the cancer center here in Memphis and stay with us, get you a second opinion. So I did that. And I also went to UVA too. So I got 2 second opinions. And they both said, you don't need a mastectomy, but what you need is chemo and radiation. So I said, well, fine, I'll do it. And so I did 4 chemo sessions and 30 radiation sessions here in Beckley. And that was 2 years ago. I'm on a estrogen blocker for 10 years. But my blood work's good, and seem to be doing okay so far. But
Are
yeah,
you in remission?
It's not really remission. It's, I guess I'm cancer free.
Mm-hmm.
But you continue with, get your mammograms and scans and keep on your body. They took lymph nodes out to see if it had went to my lymph nodes, and there was nothing in my lymph nodes. So knock on wood, we don't get, but I go back for my next mammogram next month. So we're just hoping that one's clear.
Yeah. Well, that had to have been hard, regardless, but even still, you're a caretaker essentially.
Yes.
So,
And that was when he would not cut his hair. So when I was going through chemo, Tom would give him a shower, but I would have to try to brush his hair because, he has curly hair like I had curly hair. And I would try to brush his hair. And that was probably one of the only things that I could do. It was really rough. Like the first
and I
week.
did it a lot too, right? Like when I had to.
But he was trying to work, take care of me, take care of him, take care of my parents. So it was a lot.
sure.
So I tried to chip in when I could. And usually when you have chemo, it's like the first week is really bad and then you have like 2 good weeks. So those 2 good weeks I would help out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, and he would want me to act out certain scenes. There's
In
one
his scripting, right?
You know?
He likes to script, so he wants to act out certain things sometimes.
and there was one that he just kept wanting me to do the whole time I was through chemo. And it was like a Monsters Inc. where they get banished to the Himalayas.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, we're banished, genius. We're in the human world. But yeah, he would make me do that one. And it was like, I was so tired, I couldn't
Sure.
move, but he wants me to be so energetic. And I tried so hard. And sometimes I would just shake my hand and be like,
Yeah,
Sure.
Mom tried, didn't she?
Mommy
buddy?
tried.
Mhm.
Mommy tried.
Do you think he understood like you were going through?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It probably affected him,
I think
as it would any
Any
of
kid.
course,
Yeah.
it had to have, but he still did. He did so good in school.
Yeah. We're glad Mom's better though, right, buddy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it was also, he knew that things were rough, so he wasn't going to try to rock the boat anymore.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So he tried to help.
Yeah.
And he would try to take care of me because I would go in the kitchen a lot of times and Tom would be like, "What are you doing in there?" Because it was hard. Sometimes I couldn't hardly stand. And he was be like, "What are you doing in there?" And then if he wasn't there and I would go in the kitchen, Rick would follow me. Like, "What are you doing in there?" So he knew he knew he had to keep an eye on me.
Yeah.
So he'd take care of Mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how sweet.
I feel like we've jumped all over the place.
No, this is great.
Is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say we're good to introduce kind of how you learned about the telepathy tapes.
Okay. So years ago, right before this is years before I ever heard about this podcast. I worked a evening shift at 59 News. I was a technical director at 59 News, and I worked from 3 p.m. until 11:30 when the news went off.
Right.
And so, I would have to drive back to Pineville, and sometimes I wouldn't get home till 12:30, 1 o'clock. And I noticed that if I didn't go by his room and kind of mentally tell him that I was home, that he would wake up about 10, 15 minutes after that and be angry. And when I remembered to do that, he would sleep and he would be fine. And I remember sending a text to a friend of mine who was rather open-minded. And I said, "I think my kid is reading my mind. I think maybe he's telepathic a little bit." And he said, "Well, maybe you should keep a journal." And I considered that, and the skepticism came over me. Right. And I'm like, that I'm being crazy. This is not really happening, but I continued to do it. Right. So, and we would notice little things every once in a while that if something was going on and we were talking about something in a far room, or even not when he was even around, when we got back around him, he would know what's going on.
We said he had sonic hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we thought, well, maybe he can hear us on the other side of the
We
room.
try to be really quiet, and even like not even be like, just like read my lips. He can hear. I swear.
Yeah.
I think it's more than that.
Wow.
And so I saw this podcast, and I'm interested in things like this already. I've already been on this podcast, as you know. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested in these things already. And I'm a huge Stephen King fan. And a lot of the themes in Stephen King's work is telepathy, right? The Shining. the Dark Tower series. A lot of these books deal with things that we don't really understand, right? So I'm already wired for this, and people are gonna call us crazy, right? And I'm kind of prepared for that. It won't be the first time, and it won't be the last. I guarantee it.
It's
right?
no fun being not crazy. I mean, come
Right.
on, come on.
I
y'all.
mean, I'm having
where's the
fun with
in
life.
that, really.
So I saw this podcast, and I was interested in it already because I am I'm a podcast listener. I listen to a lot of different podcasts, and I had seen that this podcast was number one over Joe Rogan. And I'm like, wow, what is it? And so I found out that it was about kids, non-speakers. And of course, I had to check it out. And we were headed to my dad's in Virginia. And so we put this podcast on, and it's the three of us in the vehicle. And different things would happen in this podcast. And Ricky usually is like he is right now. He's got his head down, and he's kind of engrossed in his iPad.
He's eating.
And he would stop and look at me right in the face. Like, are you getting this? And he would agree to a lot of these things that they were saying, right? And so it was eye-opening, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
How you doing over there?
Oh, you're fine.
We're great. We're great.
This is par for the course.
No, this is
I
great.
don't know what he needs. I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So what was your kind of reaction to this?
And kind of an overview of what the telepathy tapes are is a
Right.
filmmaker named Kai Dickens has been following how many different families?
Oh,
Exact-
a gang of them.
A handful.
Yeah.
There's-
Well, at
yeah, there's
first
like
they was
20.
like,
There's like 20 different families and different people,
the
right?
one that got me was JP.
Mhm.
And you haven't gotten to this
I haven't
this
gotten
part
to JP.
yet.
No, I haven't finished it, but I'm
And
loving it.
he's
so far.
they say he was larger than life, right? He was 6'4", right? And a big kid, and he reminds you a lot of Rick. And
Bro, what's up?
and so anyhow, we began to understand that there was more going on than we realized. And the biggest thing that I took away from it really was one of the first, you guys sit down there, bub. Have a seat.
Oh, you're
I
fine.
would like to say the biggest thing that I took from it was that we're not alone. And that there's probably somebody out there that might be able to help us, to help him, to be able to communicate like that too.
Sure.
And if you haven't even gotten to JP, you haven't even gotten to the part where this kid reaches his mother in their dreams at night and gives her music. She wakes up, she writes it down, she takes him to the studio, and they compose music.
Oh, wow.
And he tells her what's right, what's wrong, and she has to fix it. But it's coming from him through her. That's amazing to me.
Is that the tuning forks you saying? Or is that a
Well,
different
that's
one?
somebody different.
Okay, gotcha.
I think. I kind of, I can't get them all in my mind. Who's
Yeah.
who?
And this lady, she was having a dream, and her son was in it. And her son took an ace of spades and tore the middle out of it and put it up to her eye and said, "Mama, you got to wake up." And that's when she started lucid dreaming. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he started speaking to her normally, and she said, you're talking to me. Yeah, I can hear you.
He's like, "Yeah, Mom, this is how we all talk.
Right.
This is the best way to do it. The way you guys talk is archaic."
And the next morning at the dinner table or the breakfast table, he took a ace of spades and put it to his eye to let her know that was real.
Mm-hmm.
That what she dreamt was real. And I've never had that experience, right? But it's eye-opening.
Sure.
Right. And a part of it is that you have to believe. There's a little Mexican girl in maybe the first or second episode that is like, my mom can talk to me this way, but my dad can't hear me because he doesn't believe. And that's when I started believing that this was possible. I had,
He's trying to get out.
yeah, he's trying to go. Are you ready to go? Hey,
Just a few more minutes.
few more minutes. Have a seat here,
Can
buddy.
you have a seat and give us a few more minutes?
Give us
and
a
let
few more minutes. We're
let
just
us
getting to
finish.
the part that we want to talk about. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, can you have a seat?
He also doesn't really like for us to talk about him.
He doesn't.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
I
one of the.
understand.
That's
And that's a big thing.
that's
you
the thing.
But that's why we try
Is there-
to tell him that
Is there
we're
anything
going to
that
be
you want to
talking
say,
about
buddy?
him, and this is what we'll be talking about.
Right.
We wanted to make sure that he was okay
You
with
want
it.
to say something?
It's really hard to get that answer from him.
Because he's not open, right? As they say in the podcast, he's not completely open. He's just started really in his spelling journey. And we have convinced the folks at school and everywhere, right, that it's worthwhile.
He needs to
That
spell.
He needs
They
to
need to
spell.
teach him to spell.
And that's primarily what we talked about in the IEP, was that we want to work on him using these apps and spelling things that he wants and needs. And the goal for this year and next is getting him to write a full sentence that is his. Now, the controversy is that a lot of folks say that this isn't them speaking. And I don't understand that at all. Even if it's predictive text, right? Because a lot of these, he's going to have to go.
Oh, it's fine.
You want me
Yeah.
to-
Whatever y'all need to do.
Like,
Do you,
take him or what? Do you want me to set out, see if he'll set out here?
yeah, you see if you'll set out and then come back, and we can switch back and forth maybe.
You can switch back and forth.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah. Feel free
Yeah.
wherever you want to go.
So you want to,
We'll see if
House
take him
is
out,
yours.
see,
Yep.
see how it goes.
Sure. If you need anything, just holler. But
Okay. You want to walk
Yeah.
out and see?
All right, can you get by?
Okay.
All right, easy. All right, can you get by there? I know it's a tight fit.
You're gonna have to.
Okay. He's got it. Okay. And I'll adjust your
oh, it's fine. Yeah. No problem at all.
He's got smudges all over your teleprompter here.
Totally fine.
All right. Tell me.
Swinging on around right here. Yep. This way a little bit. Right. Oh, the other way a little bit. Right. Yeah. That's perfect.
All right.
Yeah. That'd be perfect.
Okay. So yeah, he doesn't like people talking about him.
Mm-hmm. Who does?
Who does? Right.
Sure.
And he gets frustrated because he can't communicate. And that's what we're trying to reach, is to get him to where he can spell out things that he wants to say. And it frustrates me to hear in the podcast this form of communication has been tamped down officially by people in the community because they don't think that it's actually them doing the spelling. I don't know how they think that it's not them. How does that work, right? And even if it is predictive text, if they start a sentence, right? You and I use predictive text. I'm sure you do. Like when you're in a messaging app, every one of them gives you an opportunity to just select a word
Sure.
that you want to use. And why is it that I can use that and communicate effectively, but they can't? That makes absolutely no sense to me. And that's kind of a sidebar, but
That's good to know. I think it's outside of, I mean, literally, because to believe it, you have to believe that these kids are reading minds. And that's scary to a lot of people. And they're kind of like, they write it off, you know. But
right. And somehow it's it's connected, right? All of these kids in this podcast are spellers. And the thing is, those kids or adults, some of them are adults, they've learned to communicate when by and large before now, they couldn't. It was impossible. I watched the podcast with the gentleman from the asylum, right? And
Copperhead.
Good old Copperhead. And I had seen pictures of autistic kids chained to the heating elements. What are they called?
Radiators.
Radiators.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can look that up online. There are pictures of autistic kids being chained to radiators in that asylum. And, you know, it broke my heart.
Sure.
Because those kids are in there.
Yeah. When he was bringing up the health effects, I thought of y'all. I was like, man, I bet Tom's going to listen to this. And, yeah, I'd really affect. I mean, it affects you anyway, but especially having a kid, you know, an autistic kid, it hits hard, I'm sure.
We were up there doing a gig in Weston, and I always wanted to see it. Now, I grew up and went to school in Buchanan, which is near there. But I had never really been around the asylum before. And I had the drone, right? So I went and I droned around the kind of the building and got some shots, and I just felt an overwhelming sense of sadness because all I could think about was how many children like my son suffered in this place.
Sure.
Without any thought of, you know, their well-being. They were just put away. And the speaking to communicate, I think that's one of the names for what it is. Spelling to communicate, sorry. That's a way for these kids to unlock what's going on in their minds. And maybe they've always been this way, but they haven't had the avenue to communicate that. And the number one thing in this podcast that all of them said was that it is about love. Life is about love. And love over money every time. And when you choose what you love above the money, you know, personally, it comes back to you 20-fold. Does it not?
Sure. Yeah. So far, so good. I have, yeah, 100%.
I mean, you know, as somebody who was making good money in a different line of work, you chose to do something else that you loved.
Mm-hmm.
And now look what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh,
Right?
yeah.
And so that's one of the big lessons that I took from this podcast was that, you know, you've got to choose love over money. And, you know,
And some of the tests that were going on, like basically they would have, the kid's mom sat in a different room, and then they would come up with, or look at a picture, right? Different things like that. And then the kid would be in the other room and would kind of describe what they're looking at.
right.
And they're not even in the room.
Right.
So several things like that
And
were
it's
going on.
and it's less about telepathy and I think more about a shared consciousness, right? That maybe we all are a part of that we don't know or believe, right? We don't believe that that's real. And we've all had gut feelings, right? I get them all the time. Outside of that asylum, I got a gut feeling. And so maybe this is something that all of us can do, but because they are, and I refer to my kid as a walled city, right? Because there's a lot going on inside. He's highly intelligent. To be able to catalog all of those YouTube videos alone in his head and bring them up on demand, that's highly intelligent, right? There's a lot going on, and it's a shame that people are discounting this spelling to communicate, as a vehicle. And I urge anyone with a non-speaker to try this and start them out slow, right? There are letter boards. A lot of these folks in the podcast use letter boards and they just point to the letters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they move on to these apps. Now, Ricky was able to kind of circumvent that because he was, he is good with technology and was typing things out in YouTube. But, just.
It's kind of relative to like you hear twins of
Right.
having kind of the same thoughts about things, similar. That's kind of the vibe. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no studies where they are, reading, or let's just say reading minds. I mean, that's pretty much what it is for anyone that's outside of the family, right? It's all with the parent usually.
Right.
Or was there any other tests?
There is a kid that somehow kind of latched on to an author, I think episode 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
And he would sort of visit this author that was just a friend of a friend. And I say visit, meaning he knew the hotel that he liked to go to write his books, the motel. In fact, he knew it was a motel, and that he knew the name of the first chapter. He knew that there was popping noises going on in his house. It's because his house was being built next to a farm, right? So there is evidence that they can do this with other people. And Ricky feels other people along with us, my wife and I.
Mm-hmm.
Just last night, okay, a friend of ours was at our house, and she was talking about a fairly traumatic injury that she had when she was in her 20s. And she fell off the back of a motorcycle on a highway and scraped up her back and, her shoulder. And as she was describing this, I can hear Ricky in the other room with pained noises. And I walk in there and he's like favoring the shoulder that she's talking about. Like he was feeling what it was like to do that.
Sure. How far was he away from the conversation?
In the other room.
Yeah.
He was in the other room. He could hear her like audibly,
Sure.
right? But you could see that he was in pain.
Sure.
And those kind of things I can't explain. Right.
Is there any other, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to ask specific experiences with you all where you're like, wait a minute,
Right. When I heard that these kids and adults go to a place called The Hill, and that there are teachers there. Okay. Nobody taught Ricky how to spell. Not in school, not at our house. Somebody did. Right? Somebody taught him. And, maybe it's that he learned it just by typing things into YouTube. Maybe. How did he know 3 or 4 grades ahead of, the grade 1 spelling?
Sure.
Right. And he likes to use YouTube videos, you heard him, that are not in English. And he'll watch YouTube videos that are not in English. He will change Disney Plus to different languages and watch it that way.
Yeah.
I don't know how he knows these languages.
Yeah. That's,
why, and what kid does that?
do you think that maybe it's overwhelming to him because he knows all the words, and then he would maybe switch it to kind of just for the comfort of the noise? Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
It's just,
But in the podcast, a lot of these kids know different languages out of the blue.
it's like no meanings of
They
words.
know meanings of words
Oh, wow.
and can speak in different languages. So, I don't know, again, he's not open yet. So I can't ask him if he actually understands those different languages or not.
So would that be the next goal of like?
Oh yes, that's what we're working on now, is to try to get him to a place where he can communicate openly and let us know. And I've heard him, you call me crazy, in my head, say things. And when we were listening to that podcast, he would look at me and I would hear him speak. One, because I think I was actively trying to believe that this was possible. Lindsay will wake up in the middle of the night out of a dead sleep and know that he needs something. Now you can say, well, that's just a mother and a son. Maybe.
Maybe that connection's there and we just don't, we're like, maybe you all are more open to that connection. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like maybe it's there for every mother. It's just,
right.
you're more receptive, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And there was another thing in the podcast where they sort of know roundabout what's going to happen in the future. And during the floods, we had a catastrophic flood in McDowell and Wyoming County. You're well aware. And I thank you for your work and your in-laws. They do incredible work down in McDowell County anyway. Right.
Yeah.
And you were down there yesterday helping out.
Yeah. I carried stuff.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Right. That's incredible. Don't discount it. Right.
Well, thank you.
But during these floods, I would go check the creek, and he kept playing a YouTube video of, I think it's Shrek 2 or 3, where Fiona says, Dad, it's all right. It's all right. And somehow, I guess, maybe he knew that we were going to be all right.
Yeah.
I still went and checked, of course, and we came really close. We came really close to the edges of the creek, and it coming over that, we were very close to Indian Creek, and it came very close. But he told me, Dad, it's all right, right?
That's sweet.
And some of these things, maybe Lindsay would tell the story a little better. One time Lindsay was taking him to school, and this was near Christmas, and her uncle, her brother, his uncle Gary, she was thinking about him because he had come in for Christmas last year, and she hadn't said a word about Gary. And that's one of Ricky's favorite people, his Uncle Gary. He loves his Uncle Gary. And he stopped and looked at her and said, Uncle Gary. And she had not said a word about Uncle Gary at all. She was just thinking of him.
Right.
And it's just these little things that happen all the time. Last night, Lindsay was taking a shower on the other end of the house. Ricky's on the far end. And when she was wrapping up, he went, shower. And wanted to go shower. Which I don't know whether he was reading that she was taking a shower. I don't know. Right. It's just these little things that make me believe that he's picking up on things that aren't said, nobody references, and that they don't make sense. And when he says something, it means something because it's hard for him to do. Right.
Sure.
I can't really think of anything else,
that's amazing. Any type of, I don't know if you call it like a medium type thing. I don't know. I like the idea of just this connection happening that is an instinctual thing. You know what I mean? Like
right.
That's just, I think it's pretty beautiful because, I think ultimately most autistic kids like Ricky are so much more genuine than we are, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's just,
yeah, they say in the podcast that these kids don't know how to lie. They have no motivation to lie about anything. And Ricky will not lie to you. you know, he's going to tell you how he feels, whether you like it or not. And he's very genuine. What you see is what you get. And, you know, he's a very special kid. And there was a kid that, kind of showed up in Ricky's class, and they were fast friends. And really Ricky's first kind of friend at school. And I don't know whether they had known each other before or just read each other immediately or what. I mean, you know, I've met people in school and been like, hey, you're one of my people. And then you are, right? But that had never happened before. And it was amazing. He actually wants to go to school now and be with his friend. So, you know, who knows how things work. And I certainly don't. I wish I did. It's going to be a struggle to get him to, you know, be able to spell and get those thoughts and feelings out. But I know within myself that there is more to him than what you see. And I think he likes to be in a car because he's cut off from the world, sort of. And he's within this pod where he has family, and it's usually me or Lindsay or the both of us, right? And he feels at home there, and the communication is better. When he's in a pool, he's more there. I think it's a part of the sensory experience. He's more attuned to me and is able to hold eye contact and that kind of thing, right?
So there's less distractions. Is that
right?
Kind of like what?
And there's a sensory experience, right? I think it helps him to feel the water around him, because as they explain in the podcast, as they explain in the podcast, these kids don't feel like they're in their bodies half of the time. They can't. Some of them can't feel their hands.
Right.
Unless you touch them. And that's part of the reason why they discount the spelling to communicate, is because a lot of them, to start them out, you have to touch their arm for them to type. And they say, well, you know, they're telling them where to type, right? But it's just like the how Kai Dickens explains when her dad was teaching her how to ride a bike. First, he's holding it. He's holding the bike up. And then he puts his hand on her back and maybe one on the, on the handlebars. And then it's just a touch. And he's not really doing anything, right? But it's a reassuring touch that she is okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then it moves on to she can ride herself, right? And I think that that hand is a reassuring touch that, hey, you're here and this is what we're doing, right? The sensory overload with him is, it's very real. When there's a lot going on, if there's a TV or a sound or a fan or a dryer going, any of those things can kind of can bother him a lot, right?
Sure.
So I think the world in and itself is very overwhelming to him, right? So when you can put him into like a pool or a car where there's movement and a sensory experience, then he can kind of center himself, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense. What are some things that communities can do to help with the experience of having an autistic kid? Like, I know you mentioned something about the pool having, did they have some kind of certain night or day where they just open the pool up for, sensory experiences? Or like, is there anything in particular that you can, tell communities on how they can accommodate? Or
It's a good question.
But
So I think that's it's a valid point, right? It's important to have these times where, and the movie theater does that here in town in Beckley. On Saturdays, I think in the afternoon or something like that, they'll have what's called a sensory showing. So they'll keep the lights on just slightly and they'll lower the sounds. And so then it's less of an immersive experience, but it's better for them to be able to enjoy things that, other people, enjoy. Right.
That's nice.
And it's good that folks do that. And, we don't really take advantage of those things as much as we should. He likes to go to the theater, but he only lasts about 15, 20 minutes. And that's an expensive date, right? It's like $60.
$100.
Yeah, it's like $60 to $100 for the three of us to go to a movie, to sit there for 20 minutes. And
Sure.
half of that is the previews, right? So, the important thing for people to understand is just to be understanding, be patient, be understanding, know that these folks, when they're having a hard time, they're not giving you a hard time. My wife said they're having a hard time, right? It's frustrating and overwhelming to have this. And then if you add on the layer of maybe they're reading everyone they come across,
Mm-hmm.
along with the sensory overload of noises and bright lights and things like that on top of it, I'm sure it's overwhelming.
Oh yeah.
And then the fact that they can't communicate, imagine, have you ever tried to think of a word and you can't think of that word?
We did it earlier with dowry.
Yeah. Dowry. There it is.
There it is.
Right?
I just now thought of it.
Yeah. So imagine that's your life. Imagine that's your life.
Sure. Yeah.
And you know what you want to say, but you can't say it.
Yeah.
Imagine how frustrating that must be.
Oh yeah.
So, it's just, I want anyone out there who has a non-speaker, know that they're in there. There's a complex and intelligent human in there. And patience is a virtue. My dad said this to me over and over again. Patience is a virtue. And try to be patient and try to get them to start spelling. Because once you can unlock that, you unlock all of their potential. There was a young man in the podcast who wasn't in any sort of regular curriculum, but he was about to graduate college because he finally was able to be open and be able to type and communicate and do things as a normal person, but he had never sat through a high school class. I think he sat through a history class for the last 3 months of his high school career, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's going to graduate college with an advanced degree, right?
Yeah.
And not every kid is that kid. I understand that. But the potential is there. That person is in there. And I try to believe. You have to believe. That's what the first the little Mexican girl said, right? I can talk to my mom because she believes.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to try to believe. And I'm trying to do better.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the closer we get to open, the closer to independence. That's the ultimate goal.
Right. And I think maybe a lot of them, even if they are open, they might not be ever be independent because the motor skills aren't going to be there.
Sure.
But will they be able to communicate and do work? Yes. Will they be able to have, a full life? Yeah. A lot of people live a full life in a wheelchair. A lot of people live a full life being blind, right? Because they can communicate.
Mm-hmm.
They can move around in the world in different ways. And that's, you've got to find a vehicle to unlock these kids. And don't give up. You've got to be persistent, That's what I want folks to take away from this, is that if you're struggling right now, and I know we've struggled for 18 years. And sometimes it is overwhelming and you don't know whether you can go on another day. And you just have to find some sort of hope. And patience, control your emotions, because they can read that. Whether you believe in telepathy or not, they can read whether you're with them or not.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody can. And, you gotta be in their corner. So.
Well, you all, like I mentioned, you're some of my favorite people. You can see how happy Ricky is. You can see his personality, and that all comes from great parenting. So I'm really, you all are hashtag goals is being more like you all in my life.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think you're doing a fine job yourself. Okay. I want to say, you guys are doing fantastic. And it's, we just do what we can do.
Yeah. Right.
And that's it. And that's all. Folks always tell us that, oh, you all are so good for him. And, it's just, we're doing what we can when we can do it. And it's, it is what it is. Right. And, we love our kid. He is a joy. About 90% of the time. he is frustrating at times, right?
Sure.
But what teenager isn't?
Yeah.
Right? Like our situation is different, but it's the same. And it is what it is,
Yep.
So,
well, I appreciate y'all sharing this with us.
So, do you want Lindsay to come in for a while?
If she wants to talk, yeah, she can come in and talk.
So we'll trade out a little bit.
Yep.
And
I think that'd be great.
I'm sure she'll have some more stuff to talk to you about. So
yeah,
let me see where she's at here.
Swing that mic over to you.
All right. I don't know what Tom's been telling you.
Oh, we've just been yakking away. Kind of move it closer to you and then down a little bit so we can see your face. There we go. Yeah, that'd be fine.
Good.
That'd be fine. Turn it towards your mouth. Yep, There it is.
Okay.
All right. So after y'all stepped out, kind of the reason being, I imagine y'all run into that a little bit on comfortability.
We are always prepared to leave. No matter where we go, we have learned that you ask us to come somewhere, sure, we'll try, but we may not even get out of the car because as soon as we go in the parking lot, he'll just be like, no, this is not what I want to do. And he will let us know that.
Sure.
In his own way.
Yeah. So we kind of went through some personal experiences, related kind of along the lines of the telepathy tapes. Is there anything that comes to mind to you about where you're like, wait a minute, there's something else going on?
Right before we listened to this. So we listened to this on our way to his dad's house for Christmas. So we'll say like a week or two before Christmas break, I was taking Ricky to school. And I remember looking, on my Facebook memories, my brother had been there at the house the year before, right? And it was right before Christmas because I remember he wasn't going to be able to come for Christmas that year for different reasons. And then also I was thinking, well, this year he's not going to be able to come this year too. And so that was just kind of going through my mind as we're driving to school, it's quiet, maybe the radio's on or whatever, but I'm just zoning, I'm just thinking. And all of a sudden he just looks at me and he says, Uncle Gary, which is my brother.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, Uncle Gary,
Yeah.
And I wasn't talking to him or anything. He just picked up on it, I guess.
Sure. Hey, Ricky.
And so that was probably a couple weeks before
Right.
we heard the telepathy tapes. And so that's the one that's fresh in my mind.
Yeah. That's what Tom was mentioning.
But there was always his whole life. And I always chalked it up to as a mother's instinct because a mother's instinct is just very, very on top of things.
Yeah. So that's a good point. Let's talk about that a little bit because he mentioned that you would wake up and then just know.
I'll just go. I would get up, I'd wake up, and it would almost be the same exact time that he wakes up or the same exact time that he needs me.
Sure.
And I just know. It's like I just know what he needs.
Sure.
Somehow. Maybe it's just because I've been with him for so long. I know exactly when and what he needs whenever. But I'll wake up in the middle of the night and it'll be right when he needs me. And so I get up, take care of him, and then we go back to sleep or stay up all night.
Do you wake mom up out of dreaming? Huh? Do you wake her up? WAKE?
Sometimes he comes in there physically and wakes me up.
Right.
And I think it's probably when I'm in such a deep sleep.
Sure.
But he always was come wake me up. But there are times when I would just wake up on my own and know he knew me.
Right. It seems like, the mother's instinct thing, but parental instinct is present in most parents, if not all parents, but it seems like there's more of a receptive value with
and I
you
think,
all.
You know how when you hear people that say they lost their sight or their hearing and their other senses became more, in tune with, to help them get around. And I think that's probably what it is that he can't verbally speak. So he's picked up on ways to non-verbally speak, whether it's body, using like body cues,
Mm-hmm.
or through the mind. I don't know. And you don't want to brush it off and say, that's nothing. But then again, you're like, what, am I crazy? I don't think I am though.
I don't think you are. There's something there. I mean,
if we can believe in aliens and everything else, then why can't we believe in this too?
Yeah. Why can't we believe in each other?
Exactly.
Kind of,
especially when we know that we only use a small part of our brain. What's the other part used for? I mean, why can it not?
Yep.
I think there's a lot out there that we don't know about. And because people don't know about things, it's scary to them and they want to call it whatever they want. But it's just because it's unknown.
Sure.
things that are unknown are scary.
Oh yeah, with anything.
Mhm.
And some people are more open than others to
True.
figuring things out.
True.
So yeah, it makes sense. I guess I'll ask you. So what would you have to say, to other families with autistic kids that may be struggling right now? What would you tell them on? I don't know, some advice or something that has helped you maneuver raising Ricky.
As soon as you ask me that question, I don't know what to say, but I'm always giving parents advice. We've been at this for 18 years. And so now we've come to the part where we're like the veterans.
We're the go-to folks.
And it's really individual basis. But as a generalized thing, I would say, look, don't give up hope. Don't listen to what other people tell you, especially the ones that only spend maybe 5 minutes with your child. Advocate. And just because somebody, a doctor, a school, or anybody in some sort of authoritarian position tells you that you can't or your child can't do something, then, say like hell he will. So,
Right.
by God, he's going to do whatever he wants to do. And, you're not going to put those limitations on him.
That's beautiful. You said hope because, your husband said the same thing while you weren't in here. So,
well, you got to have that because if you don't, what do you got?
Yeah.
You got to have something to look forward to or life is nothing.
Yep.
Ricky, is there anything you want to say? Huh? Do you want to tell everybody anything? You want to tell them to hope? HOPE?
Joke.
Soap.
Hope.
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 Hope. Yeah.
Very good.
Good
Very
job.
Good.
And if you spell a word, he'll say it on Father's Day. He said Happy Father's Day because he spelled it and he said it.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
Tell JD thank you. THANKYOU.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ricky. Well, y'all, I can't think of a better way to end this. I appreciate you all being here and sharing with me.
thanks for having us.
Yeah.
And talking about it.
Thank you. I know, stay on touch with y'all on social media and y'all tell some good stories. I've never really got to sit down and talk, especially, about this. So I appreciate you all giving us the opportunity.
It's hard to put a lot of those stories out there. It's hard to be open because you have a lot of people that are open-minded, but then you will freak some people out.
Sure.
Because we sometimes laugh through our trauma. We laugh through it. And so we'll just be like, oh, yeah, we just had to drop everything and go back home because he just went nuts on us. We're just laughing. Everybody's like, okay.
I tried to articulate some of the things that, I can tell that Ricky picks up on, but it's hard for me to kind of describe that. Is there anything that you can think of that, because it was hard for me to explain it, right?
What do you mean?
Like the fact that he will just know things, right? Like he just knows. And
that nobody's taught him. I mean,
there are people in his life who I know are disingenuous, but he knew it way before I did.
Kind of like a detector, like, Mom, you don't even mess with this person.
Yeah. Very good judge of character.
Yeah. There's somebody in our family that he really hasn't ever had. Yeah. He's never really had anything, for, and he will try to interact with Rick and he just, and,
did he just say the name?
No.
Okay.
No, he said something about Mom.
Oh yeah.
one time that family member was at the house and he started playing, "Why are you here? Why are you here?"
Like a video?
Like,
Yeah.
he started playing like a SpongeBob. It was like a SpongeBob thing. It's like, "What are you doing here? Get out of here. Why are you here?"
How many different videos does he have, would you say? that he goes
Millions.
to?
Oh, there's
It's just different scenes
1,000
of different
at least.
videos.
Yeah.
That's
You
so
know,
cool.
So-
different scenes of different SpongeBob, different scenes of cars.
Yeah.
different
Pixar movies.
Cars, monsters.
If he's having a,
Hey,
and Monsters Inc.
yeah.
And then we have Monsters University.
Yeah.
And then Monsters.
And so, yeah, university. And there's a scene in the Ants movie,
Mhm.
right? If he's having a hard time and he'll play it and it'll say,
I tried.
I've tried and I just don't get it.
Mm.
And, that's when we know we should probably back off a little bit, right? And
'Cause he's
either that or
trying,
try
it's
to explain it in a different way, right? And it's impressive. And there he goes with the different languages. I was trying to explain that he listens to things in different languages, and we
Well,
don't
he'll
know
say-
whether.
So you have a movie you've watched over and over and over again, right? You know the words to it. And then you watch it in another language. And so you learn that other language
Right.
through those words.
And either he knows it or he's teaching himself.
Sure.
Right. So,
Yeah.
all right.
He's about ready to go.
I think he's
Yeah,
about ready
yeah.
to go.
But
Well-
I appreciate you
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
letting us
thank
talk
y'all.
about it.
Thank y'all for coming in. And everyone else, like this video, subscribe to Creepalachia on YouTube. Check out the podcast. We've got Apple. Hey, Ricky, you're good, bud. Yeah.
Say bye.
Yeah.
Here, say bye. BYE.
bye.
Bye, Ricky. Bye, everyone. And always remember, above all else, long live Appalachia.